right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of FSI's PGA Preview. Tim Knott's here with John. John, how you doing tonight?
Very good. Had a great weekend. Love to see Morikawa get his win. That is my boy. So that was really exciting.
Very good for the brand. Morikawa has been your guy since the start, so really good to see him, be on him too for plays this week, plays last week as well for lineups. It's good to dig right in. We got the same event, but just a little harder. Go ahead and tell us about what we're up against.
All right. So we're returning back to the same course, Murfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. Same course. I'm not going to give every stat, but par 72, 7,400 yard Jack Nicklaus design on POA bent greens. This week, the big change really is the field. The field is way, way better. This is better than the Masters. This is better than the playoff the last few seasons. The field doesn't get any better than this. So that's got us all really excited. We are looking at a little bit of weather on Thursday. I think it's going to be rainy and windy on Thursday afternoon. So definitely tune into the Discord tomorrow to see what we're doing. We might be wave stacking. And then just kind of the same key stats as last week, maybe a little more focus on around the greens. We're expecting the rough to be longer this week. They said, the groundskeeper said they're not going to cut it, so we should see a little bit tougher there, maybe some higher scores for the same reason. But that's going to have us focusing more around the greens. We assume for those guys who do miss the fairway, they are not going to be able to get it to the green as easily. So more around the green focus for us. Ball striking almost every week, but certainly this week as well. And approach, this is a second shot course. And then guys that are good at putting on the bent POA, obviously. And then some scrambling we're going to mix in as well. We saw a lot of guys who couldn't scramble last week, weren't playing on the weekend. So that's going to be a focus. And then just like we did last week, par fours, 450 to 500. There's a bunch of them, so we're going to be looking at that as well. So pretty much the same setup, small changes, maybe even a little bit faster on the greens too. They're going to kind of turn it up a notch, make this a little more difficult, especially with the better field. So.
Yeah, we got 13 on the stimp meter for the greens this week instead of around 12.5 like last week. It's going to be a small change, but I think it'll make a difference for players like Poulter, who was just bombing 50-footers the whole week. He probably won't be able to do that again.
Not as easy, no.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on around green. It's something I stressed a lot in my model, as well as total driving. I was really into the off the tee metrics this week because like you said, they're not cutting those roughs, and guys that are going to be throwing, approach shots from the right rough or the left rough, or even these fairway bunkers, it's going to be pretty hard to hit those fast greens from a terrible lie. So
yeah, drive accuracy is important.
Yeah, I thought perfect breakdown. If you guys haven't checked out John's preview, it was out yesterday. So if you want to find us on our website, fantasygolf.com, you can find his preview. It's a lot of good stuff, some picks too as well. Always good insight, John. Thank you. But let's get going on some 10K plays. Kick us off with your favorite 10K, and let's get going.
All right. So 10K range, I'm going to be starting right at the top with Bryson. I think he's a pretty obvious selection for a lot of reasons. He is made 11 cuts in a row. He's got 7 top 10s in a row. His last time out on the course was a win at the Rocket Mortgage, and he also has a win on this course back in 2018. So all that adds up to being the highest priced golfer this week. But I'm not going to be shy about playing him. I think 11-1 is a really good price too. We've seen a lot of events, maybe not with this sort of field, but the highest priced golfer as much as 12K. So I'm going to take the discount, and I'm going to play quite a bit of Bryson this week. He's made 3 of 3 cuts at this course, and really just looking at his stats since the stoppage, he's 3rd in tee to green. He's 3rd in ball striking, number 1 in DK points, and not as good on approach, but 22nd. So I certainly think he's going to be able to have a lot of birdie opportunities, especially with that Kraken driver he's going to pull out. The par 5s, I think he can attack those. Really, the concern kind of is that approach game if it's not in top form. But we'll see. I'm going to play quite a bit of Bryson. What about you? Who's your favorite play up top?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to JT. I played JT last week, and it worked out really well. The lineups I had with him were my best ones too. So saved a abysmal 3 of 6 I had in cash. Oh no, I had 2 of 6 in cash. I forgot. Oh my gosh, yeah. JT saved me last week with 14.4 tee to green last week, 8.8 on the approach. He even gained over 3 on the putting. He looked dialed in off a good solid week off. One thing that makes me nervous about Bryson that I was alluding to with you before we started the video today was he was gaining everything on the putting surface, and in his pro shots, like you were mentioning, were not as crisp. And I'm just worried that the week off might affect his approach shots coming into a very tough week with a tougher course after coming off of a couple cupcake courses like Rocket Mortgage. I'm a little nervous for Bryson, but then again, like we also talked about, four par fives that he's going to get a chance to make crack at eagle with. You know, we saw some eagles last week. We probably will see some again this week. So I'm going to play a little JT and maybe a little Bryson. So with that, well, I guess we should talk about the last week's winner, your boy Morikawa. I don't see why not. You know, what do you think? Morikawa in?
Yeah, I'm not going to shy away. I'll play some. I don't know if I'll be as heavy as last week on him. Certainly the price is up. The competition is up. And also, as we've seen in the past, guys that go out and get a big draining win, especially when you need playoff holes to do it, you can have a little bit of a lapse the next week. I would assume he's a lock to make the cut, in my opinion, but I don't necessarily think you need to lock him into your lineups this week with all the other guys around him, and certainly trying to play a little bit of balance. But I like Colin personally. If I'm going to kind of go right in that range here, I'm looking at Justin Thomas also. He finished second last week, was second tee to green in the field, fourth on approach. And really everything since the stoppage, he's been fantastic. Third overall tee to green, fifth ball striking, fifth on approach. Everything we're looking at is good. He's got 3 top 10s on this course as well. So I will be playing some JT right there too for just 900 more than Colin.
Yeah, I think we both just talked ourselves into some fades on Rory and DJ. It's going to be tough to fade arguably 2 of the best players on the planet, but you know, you can't play everybody.
Mm-mm.
You know, yeah, and especially when you got a loaded 9K. So let's talk about that loaded 9K. Go ahead and start with your favorite guy up there at the top.
Mine right at the top here, Patrick Cantlay. Played a lot of Patrick last week. He absolutely paid off. T7. I think he's a great cash play if you can find the money to do so. Certainly, 9,800 is sometimes kind of tough there for a cash play, but he's a course horse here. Winner in 2019 at this event, 4th in 2018, the 7th place last week, and 35th back in 17. So he absolutely loves this course. He loves the bent grass greens also. If we look at just last week's stats, he was 7th tee to green, 9th in ball striking, 24th in approach, everything we're looking at there. And really, he's only played the 2 events since the stoppage, both of them top 15s, 5 of 5 cuts since the start of the year. And the thing I probably like most about Patrick Cantlay is his price came down from last week. He was over 10K, and with all the other talent in the field, DK decided to drop him down here. So I think he's probably going to be chalky, but certainly worth it.
Absolutely, Cantlay is definitely worth it at Memorial. He loves those bent grass greens. Good pick. I'm gonna go right to Xander Schauffele. It's a guy I played last week. Guy that got me the victory in one and done for the first time this year. So I have to ride with my guy. 5 approach and 5 putting and 2.8 tee to green. So he was just struggling around the greens, and I'm hoping that doesn't bite me this week when I go and click on Xander's name. But Xander's the kind of guy that he can figure out the facets of his game that he's not good at, and he can isolate his way into making them better for the next week. He's a really good golfer. Probably going to go under own, I would think, at 9-2. With guys like Brooks and Tiger in the same range. Guys are clicking on Rahm's name after a Sunday 64, and Hideki, Hovland. I mean, this whole 9K range is so loaded. I have a feeling these ownerships are going to be a little spread out. So I don't think I see 25% of the people clicking on Xander's name with the names like I just mentioned in the same positions.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk Hovland. What are we doing with Big Vic? Three straight weeks tee to green for number one.
Yeah, he played fantastic last week, and really his approach has been really good as well. He's always been about the best on tour for off the tee, but his approach has been so good recently. He is very interesting. If I'm going to compare him to the guy right underneath him, I personally am going to play more Hideki. That's maybe just because I can't play enough Hideki on any given week. He loves the course. I mentioned him last week. Everything about him is true again this week. He was T22, but that's because of bad putting, and that's going to continue to happen if he has a terrible week. He might miss a cut. If he has an okay week, he's probably top 25. If he has even a slightly above average week, he's top 5. That's what he's got in his game because he's so good at everything else. 5th tee to green, 5th ball striking, 8th in approach. But he was, of all the guys who played last week that are playing this week, there's 89 of them, he was 60th in putting. So right near the bottom. It's not good at all. He's also top 10 since the stoppage in tee to green and ball striking and approach. So everything that I've been focusing on for this tournament, I'm going to lean Hideki, but I can see all the reasons to want to play Hovland right now. He's hot.
Yeah, definitely. Hideki's a solid pick. He was 4th in proximity last week to the hole. He led the field in greens and regulation. I mean, he's got 3 top 15s at Memorial. It's a very solid pick with Hideki. I think Hovland isn't much different. He's just striking the ball better. If you look at the metrics, he was first tee to green and he gained 6.5 on the approach and 6.2 off the tee. So the same could be said. The putting's not there for Viktor either, or else he would have won last week. I mean, that's just apparent. I mean, he kind of falters on Sunday. Watching it, I seen him. He duck hooked into water, I think, on 6, and it just kind of didn't really work out for him from there. And I mean, a lot could be learned from that moment. But for Hovland at 9-5, I think a lot of cash games probably start with him or Cantlay. I think that's the approach as you were talking about with Cantlay. I think that's like right around where cash lineups are going to start. And I don't think they're going to go too far to talk about cash when we talk about Brooks and Tiger as well. I think the two go hand in hand this week, and they're also paired up together for the first 2 rounds. Brooks is a big game hunter, as they say. He comes out whenever Tiger comes into play. It's like Brooks shows up, like Majors Brooks just magically arrives. And the PGA is obviously pandering to that by pairing them two together. But Brooks, I don't know if anyone saw, but Brooks has this little Twitter thing going on with golf critics, and he's throwing out steroid tweets towards Bryson subliminally. He's got all these kind of headlines. He's trying to make noise to motivate himself, and he birdied 6 of the last 10 holes on Friday to try to make the cut, misses it by 1. I think Brooks is a good play. I don't think I'm going to be as heavy as probably the field, but I'm going to have some Brooks because it's hard to fade him in spots where I feel he's properly motivated, and especially when his boy Tiger's on the course. That being said about Tiger, what are you going to do with the big cat this week?
It's tough for me. I do really like Tiger. The fact that he's only playing a few events a year, I think he's really preparing himself to win or at least to compete at a high level at that event and then take a bunch of time off. I certainly will have some shares. We'll have to dig in a little more maybe in the next day or two. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to find room for him in my lineups just because of the other guys around him. I certainly want to be playing some Xander and even Jon Rahm, who had a fantastic Sunday. So I'll I'll end up having some Tiger. I certainly can't just fade him outright. If I could fade one of the two, I might fade Brooks over Tiger, and just roll the dice that way.
I would say this: Tiger would make more of a cash play than Brooks. I think recently
Agreed.
you've seen some inconsistency in Brooks's game. Obviously, the miscut last week and the bad Thursday. I think Tiger does, like you said, he comes out, he makes the cut, and he competes. So as a cash game play, that's what you're going to get it. And at 9K, that's an obvious golfer two range for you to go
Sure.
straight to Tiger. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Tiger in cash. Maybe try to squeeze Hovland, Xander, Tiger in cash, or maybe Hideki or Rahm, one of them two, whatever I can find. Maybe get 3 low 9Ks and pop in some low 7K plays and try to peg the winner from the 9K range and go from there.
Sure.
Let's pop into the 8K range and
Okay.
give me your favorite 8K play.
Sure. That 9K was tough because there were just so many good guys. So
I love
8K,
every single one of them.
I think the 8K ends up being maybe just a little bit easier. I am a little worried about it being a bit too chalky, but the guys that I like, everyone's going to like them, but I think they're fantastic plays, starting with Abraham ANCER. 8,500 for Abraham. I think he could be cash or GPPs. I think he is certainly got a chance to win this event. He's got three top 15s since the stoppage. He made the cut, the Memorial here in 2018 and 19. He, since the stoppage, third in tee to green, second in ball striking. He is number 1 in approach since the stoppage. So I like that a lot. 11th in around the greens as well. So really every part of his game is clicking right now. I think the price on him is fantastic too. I could see him being potentially the highest owned player in cash at that price. He's going to fit into a lot of lineups. The other guy I'm looking at right here is Daniel Berger, another very popular play. He's been super consistent lately. You can see with his logs here, he's got 5 straight top 10s. He's got a first and a third place since the stoppage in his only 2 events. He hasn't played this event since 2016, where he finished 67th. But since the stoppage, 9th tee to green, 3rd in his short game, and 19th on approach. His putter has been super hot too, so that's kind of the only concern, that if the putter cools off a little bit. But I think at 8,700, even if that cools down, we could see him finishing top 25 and certainly paying off the price. Bent grass happens to be his worst surface for putting. So again, that being kind of the downside there, if there is one. But if you want a guy who's just consistent, it's Daniel Berger.
That's nice. I did not know that about the bent grass greens. It's probably going to lead me to a possible fade because of this 9K range. The one guy I will talk about that's right below him and in between ANCER is Gary Woodland. He had gained 3.5 tee to green, 3.4 off the tee, and surprisingly from our boy Gary, gained 7 on his putting this past week at Memorial, which is unheard of. He hadn't done something like that since the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. And a deep dive on his putting stats here at Memorial. He was in 4 of 7 tournaments he's played. He has gained strokes on a putting surface, which is probably the best surface I've seen Gary putt on.
Sure.
With that being said, I also want to play a little bit of Patrick Reed. Reed is a guy who's like 20th in my model this week, and I think a lot of it is to do with the around the green game. And this is something we were talking about, and there's something I focused on. The lower the pricing tier got, I wanted to see the better around the green game. And Patrick Reed is one of the best scramblers, one of the best strokes gained players around the green. He's a pretty good putter, and he did not lose strokes putting last week. He was just a little off with his irons, which he has been recently. That's why you'll see some of the bad results. But Patrick Reed, also a big game hunter. You're going to get a discount, 8-4. I think that's a pretty solid play. Get you a guy that can maybe get in the top 25, top 20. It's good cash play, good GBP play as well. I think that's going to be it for me in the 8K range. I'm not going to have a ton of exposure. I think a lot of the guys that I want to play are going to be right in this top tier of the 7K range or straight in the 6K range. So
Sure.
Is there anything else you got for his 8K range, or are you with me on that?
The only other one I might end up with some shares here. I think Justin Rose, he's got a really good history here. If you don't look at last week, he had a really bad week. I could see myself going back to Justin Rose. He's got the pedigree. He's got some course history. He certainly does not have the form with back-to-back missed cuts. But
Right.
if there's a guy who could just turn it around on a dime, Justin Rose is that guy. So I'm not too worried about going back to him. Hoping for better than last week, but that's probably about it in this range for me. A lot more guys I'm interested in here in the 7K range.
Yeah, let's hop into this top tier for the 7K range. Who's going to be your guy right here, right in this top tier?
Probably my number one click here will be Paul Casey. He has only played the one event since the stoppage. He finished 32nd at Travelers. He's the type of guy, though, that's not going to be affected by a long layoff. He certainly is going to be able to turn it around quickly. I like what Paul Casey is doing right now. My cheat sheet just went blank on me. So I'm going to jump. Why don't you grab your guy while I get my cheat sheet back up?
Absolutely.
Who do you have in this top end?
I think Casey is a great play in this tier. I think my guy is going to be Streelman. I think that's going to be everybody's guy, like we were talking about earlier.
Sure.
7.6 back-to-back top tens. He gained 4.7 tee to green, 3.9 in the approach, and he gained over 4 putting. He's got some good course history here at Memorial. He's playing lights out. I think Streelman can hang with the big boys at times. And I also think Streelman can finish dead freaking last. So, I think for cash, he is going to be a play. And for GBPs, he's going to be a pivot, but not too much of a pivot because of the form that he is riding. So let's go and I'll get right back to you. And Casey, what are you gonna tell us on the rest of him?
I got my notes back. So Casey here again. He hasn't missed a cut since the Masters of 2019. So I'm definitely going to take that as far as some consistency goes. He is a missed cut here back in 2016, but not too concerned about what happened 4 years ago. He did finish 13th in 2014, so we know he could play this course well. Bent grass is his favorite, or at least the one he gains the most on. And for him, instead of looking at stats since the stoppage, kind of ignoring that since he hasn't been playing much, he is last 50 rounds. He has 7th tee to green, 5th ball striking, 6th on approach. His weakness is the short game. So that is kind of the concern. But again, I think just the pedigree of player here, very good option. I agree with everything you said on Streelman. He is going to probably be the highest owned guy down in this range. Poulter's going to get some ownership too because of what he did. I'm not going to be jumping on that train because of
same.
last week. But Kevin Streelman, I think, is fantastic. T7 last week, 4th in 2019. He's got 3 other top 20 finishes on this course. And just if you dig into the stats too, he was 7th in ball striking last week and 6th off the tee, 7th in putting too. So he had a hot putter, but he was also getting it done on ball striking, unlike Poulter. So that's kind of a big difference, something that we're looking at from two guys that are the same price where they may have finished very similar last week, but we're definitely going to be leaning one way and not the other.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And perfectly broken down on that. Last guy for me in this top tier would be Neiman. Played well on the weekend. I do not have my stats on him because I forgot to write them down. But yeah, Neiman played really well. He was a part of some showdown lineups that played pretty well. He was in my best weekend lineup as well because of that Sunday finish. So I'll have some Neiman. Is there anyone else in this range you'll have?
Last guy, I wrote him up in my article yesterday as well in the No Mulligans article, and that's Sergio Garcia. He is actually playing very well right now since the stoppage. Yeah, he did have the missed cut back at the Charles Schwab, but a T5, T32 since that. Just looking at the stats, he's getting it done tee to green, 2nd since the stoppage, 3rd around the greens, and 21st on approach. So certainly he's getting it done on all areas except except the putting. Once again, I think that's kind of a theme here. I'm okay with ignoring a little bit of the bad putting when it comes to the guys that are just at the top of the tee to green and approach. So I'll be playing some Sergio this week as well.
Good call. Sergio, he can play well with the big boys too. He's pretty cheap too. I was surprised to see him come in around 7-8. I thought he'd be in the 8K range for sure after a couple recent results.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to drop down a little bit, I think a good cash play would be Hadwin. He's second in proximity, 14th putting. He gained 3.6 total and only one with the approach. He didn't play too well, but he played well enough. I think for cash, that's going to be something you're going to look at. 11 of 12 cuts made this year. He did have the fourth at the Rocket Mortgage, and he didn't have a bad result last week. Just needs to avoid a couple more bogeys than he had last week, and I think some upside can come his way. So hopefully, seeing the course for 4 straight days will benefit him. Who's your favorite play down here in the low 7s?
Well, I really do like Hadwin, and I certainly see myself playing him potentially in cash. The other one that does interest me some here, Harris English. He's a guy I do like to play quite a bit. 17th at the Heritage. Just a guy that I'm going to slip in some lineups as well. Probably not too heavy on him. But I think some other guys interest me right at the top of the 6K range. So I might be kind of skipping some more of these. I guess the last one that I didn't mention would be Kevin Na. I know he has the injury, and I know people will be terrified to play him. We should be able to see him at something like 3 or 4% ownership. If he plays, I think he plays 4 rounds, and I think his upside is like top 15, top 20. So I'm interested, and I'll take a stab in some tournaments.
Yeah, it looks like he's in who's that T36 cut, top 5 cut. I mean, it looks like we're ready for a T36 or top 5.
Right. And I don't think that includes the withdrawal.
Yeah, oh, really? Yeah, okay, yeah. He's good for his rotations.
Yeah.
Yeah, not something I'm not sure on. The back issue is, we
Scary.
got a lot right. Yeah, it is. I do have a couple plays I do like down here. Brennan Steele was a guy I was playing and looking at for showdown slates last week. He was 13th in proximity. He was 4.3 on the approach, and he was minus 7.5 putting. But the fun stat of the week is he gained over 9 strokes at the Travelers. And I was doing some deeper research this week, and I found that the Travelers Championship has a correlation in the greens, bent POA, to the Memorial. So when I look back on some old articles that I've written in the past, I found that to be pretty interesting. And Brennan Steele, maybe he's just waiting for him to get faster, and that's why he lost 7.5 this past week. So he's going to be in a couple of my lineups. I also am going to go back to the well on Shane Lowry. Lowry's not a guy that I talked about last week, but it was a guy that I ended up playing. He played pretty well too. A couple of eagles. I think he had 2. No, he had 1 eagle. Yeah, I remember the eagle was pretty big because it was in my – oh my gosh, I can't believe I almost forgot. So Shane Lowry was a part of a big weekend for one of our FSI coaches Saturday. I believe it was Saturday. No, it was Friday. One of the days, one of our FSI coaches, Keats, won over $15,000 in his showdown slate. So big shout out to him. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations to him. He was a top 4, I believe, in the main featured contest. So really happy to see him grind out one of those results with Chase Seifert as the lone 6K play that tied it all together for him with Morikawa and Hovland and some of the big guys that were going off last week. So one more big shout out to Keats. That was an awesome play. 15 grand, guys. Some upside, even if you miss some cuts. So never forget showdown slates, weekend slates. They're a big part of what we do as well. To continue on with Lowry, we made over 3.8 on the approach. He's 1.3 tee to green for a 39th. I mean, he meddled because of some bogeys. He didn't really do too well, but he has some good rounds, and I think he's pretty good for a made cut. I think that's probably going to be it for me in this range. I might have a few other players, so tune into the Discord and ask us questions, and we'll tell you guys that we fall on later in this week as the week plays out.
Yep.
So 6K. Let's get some darts. Let's get some guys that we could fit Bryson and JT with.
Absolutely. My first click here is going to be Nick Taylor. He's coming in at 6,900. He finished last week 48th. I do like that. But really, I like more as I dug into how did he finish that T48, 16th in tee to green, 17th on approach. So I certainly, I'm liking guys that were really good tee to green last week. And I really like the price on Nick Taylor as well. Since the stoppage, he's 28th overall tee to green, 23rd in ball striking, and 24th on approach. I was shocked to see he is 25th in DK points since the stoppage too. So he does have that one missed cut back in February, but really he's coming around and making cuts. I don't know that the upside's there that he's going to finish top 25, but if you're looking at guys sub 7K, really we just need a cut maker, and I think Nick Taylor can get that done. He has one missed cut in 15 here and one 49th back in 17, and then to go along with last week, the 48th. So last thing, Bentgrass is his best putting service, so I could see him having another good week this week. What are you thinking at the top of the 6K range?
Yeah, I noticed last week at the end of round one, there was like 3 or 4 Canadian golfers at the top of the leaderboard. We had Hadwin, Taylor, Connors. I'm thinking to myself, if it was a Canadian invasion in my home state. It's pretty fun to find. I'm gonna go to Ches Reavie. That's the guy I haven't played in a while, but this is my TK's random guy pops in the model guy. We had Van Roy in a couple weeks back, and I think last week it was, who was it last week that popped in the model? Shoot, I can't remember, but it seems like I have one of these guys every week that just kind of just shows up out of nowhere. He was T17 last week. He was 5.9 from the tee to green. He's 15th in proximity and 23rd in bogey avoidance. So he really puts it together here at Memorial. He did last week. He's 6.7. I think that's a total strong move. He has won before on tour, and he's got a top 10 this year. He's 13 cuts made. He's a solid golfer, and he's also, for his price compared to where he is in the world golf rankings, I think he's top 50 in the world golf rankings, and he's 6.7 down here with plays like Bernd Wiesberger. Well, he's also in the top 30 in the world golf rankings, or top 50 in the world golf rankings. But you got guys like Patrick
Zach Johnson,
and like Mackenzie Hugheses and Cam Smiths, and he just seems to be a better golfer for his price range. And I'm certainly not going to go to Grillo. Guy hasn't made a putt since 2015. What else you got for 6K? I got a couple other darts.
Yeah, probably my next favorite, maybe my most favorite in this range is going to be Troy Merritt. He is down at 6,600. I think he's going to be a pretty popular play as well, partially because of that T22 last week and T8 the week before. He's made 4 out of 5 cuts since the stoppage, so I do like that. But looking into last week, 15th tee to green, 5th in approach, and he played well here last year too, 17th in 2019. He has played at Murfield Village at 4 different times, 1 missed cut to go along with those 2 top 25s. So for a guy this price, I think that's certainly worth the upside in tournaments. I'm going to probably be playing quite a bit of Troy here this week.
I like Merritt. Merritt's a solid play. Good first round leader bet. It would be a good solid guy. Always gets out to a really hot start.
Sure.
Yeah, very good. Dufner, I'm going to mention him again. He is a strong Memorial player. He 56 last week because of a bad weekend, but he still gained over 4 on the approach. He came in 7th in 2019, and he won this event in 2017. He's 5 of 6. Well, I guess you would say now at the workday, he's 6 6 of 7. So Dufner's a strong play. I like Taylor Gooch a lot. Taylor Gooch is a guy who's playing off a hot weekend. I had him in some showdown contests as well. So as you can see, I'm going based on what I found over the weekend is really what's making a case for me in my lineups this week. So Gooch was one of those guys. He's 6.5 tee to on cost. He was 6.2 on the approach. He was 7th in tee to green. He's been a really strong iron player throughout his career. He's always struggled with chipping and putting. So hopefully those don't disappear. As you can see, the last 3 events, he was not good at those. So I think one time he had a withdrawal in there for COVID, but he was cleared and he dominated the greens this past week. So I like Gooch. Any other 6K plays as we round out this price tier?
Not a lot that I love here. I'll probably end up playing a little bit of Carlos Ortiz. I always end up flocking to him. And then the last one that kind of caught my eye, HENRIK NORLANDER. He played okay last week. Probably expected a little bit more. He was only 1 under on the weekend. So, but I do think there's some good reason to go back to Norlander this week. He's playing well since the stoppage. That's probably about as low as I plan to make it down the salary list this week.
Yeah, I can't go without mentioning Tyler Duncan as well, 6.3. He's 7th. He had 7.5 tee to green at the Travelers and 3.7 on the approach. One of them correlation courses that I liked as well. He's made cuts. He took a week off. I think maybe that did him some good because he looks like his irons were starting to disappear at Rocket Mortgage. I think it's a good dart throw. That wouldn't be something that I'm heavy on. I'm obviously more confident in Gooch, Dufner, Reeve than I would be Duncan, but very cheap punt. Tyler Duncan, can't go wrong. Guy's always in the fairway, and you're gonna need to be in the fairway to be successful.
That's probably it for me down there. I don't know that I'll put myself on any of these guys at the bottom, unless something comes up in the next day that I see. But again, I'm really going to be honing in on those key stats, and then I think we might have a decent wave advantage here. We'll take a look again tomorrow, but it looks like it could get pretty gnarly in the afternoon there on Thursday. So we will just have to wait and see.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. We're going to have to see if all our picks are still the same or are we going to have to change based on some weather predictions that are coming up.
Wave stacking.
So definitely get at us in the Discord for any changes that may come this week. But those were our picks for this week. I think we're off to a strong start. I think we have a good idea of how things are going to shake for ownerships, for cash games. I think it's going to be a pretty fun week, and I'm excited. So let's wrap it up with some one and dones. I'm Victor for the first time, but I think you have me in the overall standings. I'll calculate the winnings tonight, and I'll get them out for the next video so we can have an overall standing for our weeks. But let's go with since I won last week, I guess I'll kick it off, and I'm going to kick it off with, oh boy. I got 2 names in mind, and I don't know which one's going to be the right one. Oh boy. All right, I'll go with Brooks. I'll go with the big game hunter. I'm going to go with Brooks Koepka.
All right. I'm going to take Abraham ANCER. I really think he's got a chance to win this week. I'm going to play a lot of him in DFS. I think he's a solid play, and I hope he wins.
That'd be a nice bet too if you think you can win.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be around like 40, 50 to 1, and
he's
with this field, you could top 10 bet that too. Well, that'll do it for this week's FSI PGA preview. John, thank you. It was a fun time as always.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, let's win some money this week and get at us in the Discord for any questions you guys have. Course tomorrow for all FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo, every slate. It's one big sheet. It's awesome. So that'll do it for us. Everybody have a good night. We'll catch you in the Discord.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks.